All right, welcome back to the Soul Material Podcast, the podcast you cheer for, the channel you cheer for. It's T Mark the Street Shark.
And your man, the OGEO.
All right, and we're back in the building, giving some more of that sneaker business talk that you love so much from the Soul Material crew. All right, it's giving that clarity over popularity as we like to do. And so this episode, it's all about nostalgia again, So welcome to our new listeners. But if you've been back, you know where we're about to go. And we're going back to the 90s. All right, and we're just gonna dedicate this whole episode just to the core elements of the 90s, some of the things that shaped us in our early years, and just it was just a time to be alive in culture, with the way the sneaker culture was, the way the NBA was, way music, just all of those influences. But have we love a good show and tell over here, so we just have a lineup from the 90s to just do some storytelling, just like we do from the Shark and the OG. So I'm just going to kick it off with the OG and get us started. And let's reminisce on the 90s.
Thank you, Shark. But first and foremost, we got to let the people know how organic this episode has come about because we actually were ping-ponging, going back and forth as far as discussing and analyzing how the culture right now is still impacted and heavily influenced on our childhood era, which is the 90s, and how if they meaning all the big brands that were around at that time, decided not to remake anything from the 90s at all for a whole year, how they possibly would struggle. So that's how much of an impact in the chokehold that our era, is what I call it, has even to this point, and the influence that it made over the years, like you said, musically, athletically, culturally, politically. Um, what a time to be alive. And with me, Shark, the first thing that comes to mind, and of course, us being organic, there's so many angles we can go with us being from the DMV area and so forth. But just universally, how can you talk about the 90s and influence and impact and culture from then even till today without mentioning 91, 92, 92, 93, Michigan Wolverines, the Fat Five. We talking about C. Webb, Mr. J. Howe, J. Rose. We're talking about my boy Jimmy the King is what I used to call him, because in high school he was my favorite high school player back in the day. And we're talking about that boy Ray himself from Texas. So I had to bring out show and tell the Fab Fives. And of course, these are not the original, they're retro, but hey, this is the close to the original that we got, with the colors being where they were as far as color placement. And this shoe just kind of changed the game with the black socks, having the I guess the sandal type of shoe on a basketball court, so having a lighter shoe as opposed to wearing a high top all the time. And not saying that we need to reiterate the story people already know, but the significance of this shoe and that time, musically, athletically, Fab Five changed the game in the 90s, man. Until this day, when I wear these, that essence and that memory and that feeling comes back. Even me wearing these now or touching these now, I have a certain just love and nostalgia. And you cannot deny that Hirachi sign. And when these came in that original black box, you knew it was in the game. And shout out to the Fab Five and what they did for us and their legacy, because this shoe means so much to the culture, Shark. No question.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, break out the black socks and some baggy shorts, and we in there. Definitely. So let's keep the Fab Five vibe going. And again, shout out to our original listeners. Soul Material Podcast. We some of our namesake and our brand started with the relationship of Chris Webber and Jawan Howard, and then them playing together in college, and then them translating to our home squad, Washington Bullets. So just tying that storytelling back together for y'all. So let's get sensational. All right. So we're going to talk about
Woo!
Air Max Sensation. All right. So this is a retro, so you don't see the CW and the 2 on the back like the original for Chris Webber, but we look at that beautiful Air Max sign on the tongue. All right. So this was Chris Webber's signature shoe with Nike, and this was again, just look at that blue. Like that should be like 90's blue. You can't remake this again. And just that great, pebbled leather. And then you had there was a lot of air. There's a lot of air and up tempo going on in the 90's. It was the full bed. You got the 4 foot and the big unit in the heel. Like, come on, Air Max Sensation, Chris Webber. Like, these speak for itself. I don't have to tell too much of a story. And I actually only worn these one time, and that was when we podcasted live at Capital One Arena for Sneaker Night, when we partnered with the Washington Wizards. So that deserved the sensations to come out. But yeah, there you go. C Dub caught up in the web. Caught up in the web. C Web's signature shoe. This is classic 90's. Like, these type of silhouettes, and like I said, we were heavy on the air. As soon as we discovered Max, they just put Air Max in every iteration of it on a lot of things. So wasn't the lightest shoes, but wow, comfort. Wow. All
Talk
right.
about the essence of the 90s chart. We're back to a time in which matching now, or the new matching, I should say, is not matching at all. And I will argue that this shoe began that trend in the 90's, not only colors, but you're not having to have to just match everything together. And just to go there, this is one of LeBron James's favorite models as well. He has a story about his uncle wearing these one day, and he had a rendition of a colorway made in one of his past shoes. And I have that same story that so my uncle wearing these, and I'm like, what are those? Are they boots? Are they tennis shoes? Are they basketball shoes, or what? And you all that kind of got your brains going, you already know where I'm going here. I'm going with that OG Nike Air Moab, and oh my goodness, you're talking about 90's to the core. The
Yeah.
ACG, the all conditioned gear line by Nike, changed the game totally, to where an old man, quote unquote, hiking shoe or hiking boot became cool. And the whole inner sock, again, the whole Hirachi feel of that inner sock, the colorway is magnificent. This version is from the retro from 2000. Look at the tag real quick. I don't want to get it wrong. 2015. Wow, it's been that long already. And this is the last retro I believe that they made that was as close to the OG, with
Yeah.
that two-tone leather, as far as the two-tone colorway of the leather. The shoestrings, damn near exact. The tumbled leather on the ACG, which I always loved, and this was not cheap at all. The band back here saying Nike Air,
And the Moab on the
that
bottom.
all-weather sole. And these were very, very comfortable as well. And as you guys know, the OG wears the shoes. These have been worn at least 10 times a year since 2015 when I reacquired these. And look at that. Look at the uppers on these.
There you go.
Till this
Yeah.
day. So until these break down, and now we have, again, Shark and I had an episode as far as the re-gluing and how that goes about now, and the restorations. But shout out to the 90's, and what I'm wearing with these doesn't matter, because these are too dope to not just find it. You could not find this blue shirt anywhere. You could not find a hoodie this color back in the day, or a shirt. You couldn't. So you had to just fly with what you flew with. And the all conditions gear, Air Moab Nike, essence of my 90's and of my childhood, man, definitely.
Nice. Yeah, the retros, they kept putting like tabs, those pull tabs on the front and the back of the tongue and the heel, like totally ruined it. Like, just stick to the OG vibes. All right, so I'm gonna stay basketball still go back to 96, 97, and we got the Air Adjust Force. All right, again, this is the ambush collaboration. So they actually blacked out the air bubble, but there you go with the classic air bubble. Like for the full heel. And again, this is a special model for me. I was a varsity basketball player when I was a freshman in 1996, 97, and this was our team shoe. So this shoe has the removable strap, and there was like a bunch of different colors that you could buy them separately as well and buy extras because you got a pair that came with the shoe. So my school colors were red and white, so I had a white pair and then a red pair, and then like one, sometimes I have red on one shoe and white on the other shoe or whatever. So just the nostalgia of my high school team shoe. So we got the Air Just Force. So I was so happy when Ambush did this collaboration. They do a lot of 90s reiterations with modern twists. So yeah, and then you just can't just. And then it's 90s. Let me take this off real quick. It's 90s when, hold up, it's black and white. That's all you needed to do. Black and white, everything. All right. That was so many silhouettes with just black and white. And then, whether it was an accessory that changed the color or, it was like you had a black shoe, and then you had maybe black socks. But if you had the white socks, maybe you had the red swoosh on it, on the sock. And then that was it. There wasn't a lot of color going on. So again, just the 90s, just a lot of blacked out. I don't get what's wrong with that. Today we got colors galore, but black and white is 90s. So Air Just Force, Nike, thanks Ambush for doing a great collaboration. And again, these didn't sell out, so they ended up going on sale and that stuff. I was like, see, I'm happy you guys don't know about this shoe, but we're gonna tell you about it. So 'cause this is classic 90s, 96, 97. Like, come on. This was all over the NBA, and you didn't even know. And this is Vince Carter, North Carolina freshman year. And with the white, with the Carolina blue strap, Ed Cota throwing him the alley oop. That's what we are talking about with this shoe. All right, Air
Shark, looks
Jet
like you're
Force.
holding a live East Bay magazine right now. Just all you saw in East Bay was the basic black and white shoe, although there may have been other colorways. And thanks for the history of that Carolina team, because I remember trying to find that UNC colorway, and I'm like, they didn't sell it. It was a true college, and I'm like, oh, they make shoes for college players. So as opposed to going back to the story with the Fab Five, in which they were things you could get to the store, yeah, Vince and Jameson had some stuff like, oh, they got some exclusive colored stuff. And you saw that with more team shoes that weren't that popular. But that was the first shoe I was like, I gotta get my hands on those. And you couldn't. And back then there was no internet and no one reselling and so forth. So unless they threw it to a friend and so forth, finding a Carolina, I wonder who has a shoe in a good condition still. Someone has it somewhere. So someone has that, holler at us. We want a picture of it, just see it. But I'm just envisioning Ed Cole and them in that shoe. And I'm like, I got to have that shoe. And I'm a Michigan fan, Georgetown fan. I'm anti-Carolina. But once Carter wore them joints, I was like, maybe I could jump higher if I wore those. Like, it was something about that shoe and that colorway placement. They were perfect.
Yeah, everyone. If you know me a long time. You know I'm a Carolina fan. Had the pleasure of going to Carolina basketball school, basketball camp, and got to meet Ed Cota, Antoine Davidson, Vince Carter when I was young, and hanging out with them in the dorms. You know what I'm saying? Like it was again fun times. So I always remember that. So not only from my career, but just watching them and watching Vince Carter jump out the gym. That was one of the shoes. So what you got up next, OG?
Of course, man. Well, we got to represent home, and there's no way that I can have an episode without taking this back to my days going up and down Georgia Avenue, going up and down New Hampshire Avenue, being at Petworth, being Tacoma Park, anywhere uptown, and all of a sudden seeing this shoe that's not a Nike, not an Adidas, not a Reebok, and you couldn't find them anywhere locally, but everyone was wearing them. Anybody from DC from that era know where I'm going right now. You see the shoe boxes behind me for the folks who are watching this visually. Let's go to the New Balance. Let's go to 1992-93 with the 992. This was an original quote unquote retro they did a few years back. And this shoe changed the game for me as far as comfort, as far as something that was worn in the city that was different, and something that we carried, quote unquote, as ours. Because nowhere in the world outside of true runners, people were wearing New Balances casually. And this was a staple to signify that you were from, now called the DMV. And these just bring me back to days of the hustlers and being around and being outside all day and not having a shoe that took so much to maintain. And the classic gray, this just says Northwest, Southwest, Northeast, Southeast, DC to the core in the 90s. And the fact New Balances have gotten popular again with the collaborations, they've never changed their quality of their shoe. And it's good to see, again, quote unquote, alternative brands really making a stand for themselves, in the hobby now, in the culture. But back in the day, if you went to Philadelphia, if you went to Carolina, if you went out of town on vacation or ward, people like, what are those? Are those Jeepers? Or those, we used to call them Jeepers back in the day. But yeah, shout out to New Balance 992. My 7th grade, 8th grade year when these came out. And this is a shoe where my uncle was like, we bought every like other month. So you will see them have a fresh pair. And once they got quote unquote unfresh, they will go and buy another pair because New Balance always restock these in the DC area. So this was my first experience of seeing people actually rebuy a shoe, multiple times throughout the year. So shout out to Washington, DC, Uptown, New Balance, the 992. Shout out to Balance for remaking the original rendition of these, man. Love them, always will. This signifies home for me. No question, Sharp. No question at all, man.
All right. All right.
What,
Well,
what you got for us?
all right. Let's go back. I'm staying basketball, and then so we just talked about Carolina, but let's go to another Carolina alumni. All right, and we're switching brands up, but we're gonna go Fila Stackhouse 2. All right, I actually like the 2 better than the 1. And this was it looked like.
You can't let that pass. You got to explain why you like the 2 better than the 1 now. Hold on now.
Well, the
Newsflash.
one with the spaghetti, it had all the marketing. I just felt like, because I actually had this shoe and I bought in it, I just felt like it it fit better.
Hmm.
It performed better, and to me, I like the simplicity of just the sleekness of this. I felt like the spaghetti had so much going on that they were trying so hard with that first shoe. It just didn't translate. Like this model and this silhouette. Like if you took this off, you'd be like, oh, that's the Steve Francis. Oh, that's the Reebok. Like so, this actually fit. And then here we go. Like the spaghetti didn't come in black and white. They did the traditional, navy red and white. But when you came with the black, like again, you fit in with everything else that's going on at that time. Are these Sean Kemps? Are these Steve Francis's? Oh no, these are the Fila Stackhouse. All right, so you kind of didn't mind some of the things being similar. So yeah, great question. Yeah, that was a clarifying point. Like I got into the detail of these stack houses, and it was something about like a fat tongue at that time that it was like that felt like extra ankle support and cushioning and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe I just made that up from when I was playing. That's what I used to think. But it just, this silhouette just screamed, late 90s for me. And then another quick story of this particular shoe. This shoe, so back to the hometown DMV. If you're a high school basketball fan, then you are very familiar with the history of the Capital Classic. All
Yes, sir.
right, in the Capital Classic, and then so you had some DMV All Stars, you had the privates versus public in the pregame, and then you had the DC All Stars versus the national team, and it was always cool to see some of the top talent team up, and then go against some of the nation's finest. So I got a chance to go see people like Mike Bibby, and he was playing with Corey Benjamin at the time, and it was just
Hmm.
like, who are these dudes? You know what I'm saying? But then it was just like, yo, hometown Nate James had to hold it down with the one sleeve cut off back in the day, and he went. You know, if everybody knows, he knows Nate James went to Duke from the area.
Hmm.
But this was one year the Capital Classic was sponsored by Fila,
Eli.
and this was the shoe that they were wearing. So if I recall correctly, uh, um, this might have been Corey Maggette when he showed up around that time. So just again, just good vibes going to Capital Classic games. It was a good time with my family, with my brother, and we would always that was always a dream. I didn't make the final cut that season to actually be on the team because I had transferred schools. So everything the same stats didn't transfer over. But at the end of the day, just Capital Classic DMV, and here you go. Fila Stackhouse too, and then story time about the shoe. The designer of this shoe, when he was at Fila, also went on to start another brand called Brand Black. And he did the Jamal Crawford shoes before he moved on to running the company and not doing all the designs. But, you know, this has a lot of lineage in this design and where things went in the future just from the designer. And then, you know, this is just classic 90's silhouette. And then give me the black and white. Stackhouse too.
Understood. And Shark, we got to let people know. Um, we're on a time limit, of course. We can go on and on. Don't kill us. We didn't mention your shoe. This was just a point in time. We just wanted to bring out just a few things because you see from um, Sharks and my backgrounds alone, we could probably go for another 3 4 hours just picking out stuff. And this ain't a versus, but we just wanted to bring out some things really quick, just to bring out that nostalgia, a little bit of show and tell our story. Because one thing about this hobby, um, the storytelling and what's behind the story is getting lost. And Shark and I want to bring that back because once you got a shoe, obtained a shoe, it was more about just the like button or doing it because someone else. Like it was always something behind, not just the thrill of the hustle or the thrill of just the cop, but it was always something else to us. Whether your favorite athlete wore it, or your mom and dad got it for you, or you saved up your money to get it, obtain it, or family went to the store, they sold out, and you walked into a store 2 weeks later and it just popped up and you got no mention of a restock and so forth. There's always some kind of story behind the shoe, and that what made our era so distinctive, so unique, so fun. And even till this day, I get goosebumps, man, just looking at certain things, Tony, that you brought out. Because I got my story about those Felines too, that's totally different from yours. But again, the colorways, the black and white, the East Bay magazine, again, our previous episodes that we talked about is coming back up again. Again, as I say, what a time to be alive, Shark.
Oh yeah, definitely. And just to wrap this up in a nutshell, it's all about the vibes, the nostalgia. It's that moment in time that you remember. Whether you had the shoe, you wanted the shoe, you didn't get it. You may, we got older, got jobs, and we went back and got the things that we wanted. But it's the camaraderie. It's the friendships. Again, it's those moments hanging out in the hallway by the locker. Where and then it's like, hey, yo, oh, I see you over there. Oh, that's what you got. Oh, that's what we doing today. And we talked about the ACGs. And I just felt like, I know my crew at least. When we were in school, we were ahead of the curve. So like, we were the pack wearing the ACGs and the first with the Tune Airs, and then and the Air Force Ones with the jewels. Like we were the trendsetters, the forward thinkers, and
The risk takers.
that was the
That
age
was a
of
risk.
influence when everything was in person.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to see it. That means you had to be wearing it. You weren't talking about it, and then that was all that you were doing. So again, the first Asia influence started out in your schools, in your neighborhoods, and we told you some stories about who influenced us, because it was the same thing. We had to see some things because we feel a certain way, and then we get that affirmation like, oh yeah, you like this too, or that's where that came from, and then we're just adding on to the stories because it's all about what we tell you all as our audience all the time. Make your own story. That's why you love the sneakers, because it's about what you like. It's not about what we say and what other people tell you to like. So you have that power to like what you like and buy what you want to buy. So just create those memories, and for all those parents out there, share those stories with your kids, and then create new memories with them, and carry on the tradition. So I think that's a good place to wrap up. Maybe we'll do a part two later on down the line, just because it's so much fun reminiscing on the 90's. There's plenty of stories to be told, and a lot of things you see on the shelf right now are influenced by the 90's anyway. So there you go. Another episode in the books. We told you we're all about that clarity over popularity here at the Soul Material Podcast, the podcast you cheer for. So, signing off on this episode is T-Mark the Street Shark.
And your boy, your man, the OGEO. Till next time, peace to you.
Peace.
Sneaker business talk. It's the Soul Material Podcast.